Welcome to the Red Hot Reds podcast, presented by Ohio Sports Talk. I'm Roger, that's Ricky. On today's show, we're 25 games into the season, Rick, and we got our April grades, our first month grades, and some guys are measuring up, some guys are not. And, even we're going to grade the manager and the front office. We're going to try to touch it all in the farm system as well. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing some first month grades. Ricky, you ready?
Let's go.
This is the Red Hot Reds podcast. Here are your hosts, Ricky Logan and Roger Straz.
Welcome to the show. Thank you again for tuning in. We haven't done one of these in a while, so it probably is why I was a little bit off introducing ourselves again. But this is the Red Hot Reds podcast presented by Ohio Sports Talk. We are a Reds podcast covering the Reds for 2025, the whole season, and some off-season stuff as well. Today, we're going to be covering the grades, the first month grades. The sample size, I think, Ricky, is pretty big enough. 25 games in. It's obviously we're like 1/6 of the way into the season, so it's not doom and gloom time. It's not possibly how the season's going to go, but we have a big enough sample size to grade a bunch of areas of this ball club on and off the field. And first, I want to thank Doug and Jordan for lending us this platform from Ohio Sports Talk. Please subscribe to Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, and we're also a podcast, so please subscribe to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get podcasts. We do have a sponsor as well. We want to shout out W Energy. Thank you for their sponsorship. Go to w.gg to get the only sugar-free Focus energy drink on the market out there. And when you go to their store, please put in the code REDHOT10 to get 10% off. And we really appreciate that. My stuff, I ordered some stuff, Ricky, recently. It should be here, I think they said tomorrow. I think last time I checked this. So by the Sunday show, I'll be showing it off and telling you the energy that I'm getting from their I forget that it was like a variety pack that I got, 3 different ones in a shaker bottle. But yeah, how you doing, Ricky? How's your life been so far?
Doing well, busy. Kids in T-ball, coaching, a lot of stuff. It's fun. Baseball was, yeah, a lot of fun. Pre-game shows. Trying to write articles too for We Like Sports and editing and stressful.
Yeah, for sure. Check out Ricky tomorrow. Well, today, Friday, he's going to do the pregame show for the first game of the Rocky series for the Reds. It'll be, I think, 7 o'clock, 7:30 for the
7:30. Yeah.
So check that
keep
out.
An eye out for my my Jamer Candelario bet. I'm 2 for 3 on Candelario bets hitting. So maybe there's a weird, obscure stat with him against the Rockies because he seems to. The one that was versus Baltimore, he didn't hit it on Friday, but he did hit it on Saturday. He had a double in the last 4 games against Baltimore. So it's kind of funny how that works out.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to talk, more Jamer Candelario later in the next couple segments. And yeah, Ricky, 25 games is not the biggest sample size, but just to throw that out there, I threw it out on X earlier. The Reds at this point, 25 games, and were 14-11, and now they're 12-13. New manager, some new players, some of the old faces that we saw in 2024. I don't know. I guess overall, what are your first takeaways of the first 25 games?
I'm not too upset. In a perfect world, you expect to go 25-0 or you want to go perfect, and it's just not how it works. We're not the Dodgers. Some people have questions with how Francona is managing the team. I tend to let the guy do what he knows what to do. I mean, maybe there are some questionable things with lefty on lefty, but I think he's just trying to get guys consistent with what he wants, how he envisions what he wants to have happen.
Yeah, for sure. Tito has definitely had some long ropes for some guys and some not so much. He's, kind of platoon some guys in to get different at bats, different looks and stuff like that, which we'll get into more later. The thing luckily, we didn't get swept by the Marlins this past week. I was kind of getting to a point of frustration where this team is obviously inconsistent. They're young. We kind of have to take that into consideration. There isn't as many, I would say, mental errors. We had some bad games. The Mariner series last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, that one kind of really stuck out with some real bad errors. And the Ashcraft one and the Marlins were a poor throw to first. Like, there's still obviously room for improvement, but like if we got swept by the Marlins, and I don't know, I always look at that expected win-loss based on the run differential that was at Pythagorean theorem and thing. Like a part of me says like the Reds should be that record. I think it was like 15-10. Like they should be that record if we're playing up to our abilities. But it just feels like the 2024 story a bit where we're not playing up to our abilities yet. Now, again, we're a first month in, so I guess check in with me in a month at the end of May when we do this again. Like if we're still not like playing up to our abilities, and there are some guys that are. I'm not saying it's everybody. I'm not saying it's just one guy either. If we're not playing up to our abilities and kind of getting these wins, stacking these wins against some lower level competition that's coming up and into May a little bit, then I'm going to be kind of a more sour mood. But right now, yeah, 12-13 kind of stinks. But I think we also said in other shows, if they're 500 going into May and 500 getting out of May, then we're still in contention more or less. And this division, it kind of looks like the Cubs are running away with it, but the Brewers aren't that good. The Cardinals are finally, they're going back to the bottom of the division. Pirates, don't even want to talk about them. And then, we're right there in the middle. So I don't know. It's kind of a long way of saying that it's frustrating to be at this point, but let's see where we are a month from now.
Yeah, and if you look at the average age of the players on this team, like your infielders, you got Marte, McLean, and Ellie are 23. I think Marte's still 22, and outfielders, that's kind of where our most experience is, and that's where our most struggles were until Austin Hayes showed up. And I think him getting healthy is huge for what we want to do. And a very unexpected surprise at catcher. So wins equals wins, some might say. And yeah, we're a pro wins show, and it's great. It's great to see that we're out of some negative, there's a lot of positive as well. And it's not just trying to find positive, but there actually is positive.
Yeah, for sure. And one of those positives that it's kind of tailed off has been the starting pitching. The starting pitching at the beginning of the year, first 3 weeks of the season, I'd say, fantastic, right? Like the guys there, maybe except for Martinez. Martinez had a good start against the Marlins yesterday or whatever it was, the getaway game or 2 games in. I can't remember, game 2. But Green, Singer especially, Lodolo, Andrew Abbott after his little rehab start seems like he's clicking. He's throwing strikes, got 11 strikeouts his last outing. I don't know. We'll do final grades in a bit, but like the reason why I think we're starting off our grades is because this is kind of the identity of the team, at least for me, is the starters. The guys, they're going deep. They're, Hunter famously went 8 2/3 inning that one game against the Giants. And, like it feels like hasn't been a Reds pitcher that's, got a complete game in like years. And I think, although your stat about Martinez, I think he had that complete game, but it was the 8 inning loss against the Cubs, I want to say, the last game of last year. But anyway, it just feels like that, we've had 5 and dive guys where David Bell's going to the analytics and pulling guys early, and we haven't really had a staff that sets the tone, I think. And I think they're definitely like one of, I don't know, I have to look across the league. I'm not necessarily watching every game of baseball, but I think they have to be a top 5 rotation, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's great. Hunter Green's whip's like 0.075 or 78, and he's already pitched in 30 innings. I'm trying to find last year where he was in April. He pitched 30 all of April. So if he can get one more start in, he'll have at least an average of an extra start and a half innings-wise than what he had last year. Martinez is probably the weak link in the rotation so far, and the Brady Singer acquisition is huge just based off of, he's 3-0. We give him a ton of 4-0. We give him a ton of run support. He's kind of like the anti Luke Weaver, where we don't need to score 100 runs, but we do because he's not going to give up 50. But it's fun. And Lodolo, if he can stay healthy, he had a little bit of a rough patch his last start versus Miami, but the first inning he had, it was at 1-2-3 with 2 strikeouts. He looked great. And Hunter Green, I think he's solidifying himself as a top 1 pitcher in baseball. I saw someone on, I forget who it was, on MLB Network said that we need to start having Hunter Green in the same conversations as Paul Skeens. Just he's that good, and I agree 100%.
Yeah, I think I saw that clip too. And another guy really buying the stock of the Reds rotation is our friend of the show, Claiborne Snowden. He just actually had a piece on Just Baseball. Check it out, where he was talking about the Reds rotation has playoff caliber talent. Like, that says it all in terms of, at least for me, that and it's kind of the identity and the philosophy we've kind of touched on in other shows, that if we can kind of build our team through this, Great American Small Park is not going to attract big name, free agent pitching per se. So, like, if we can have those horses, and we obviously have talked about them before, but like we got horses also in the minor league system. So, like, just keep it coming. Like, I know it's, when probably Hunter Green gets the end of his, really undervalued contract right now, he's probably going to New York or the Dodgers or the Mets or something, because he'll be so valuable. But in the 6 years we have control of him, I think actually 7, I think it was what Clay said, plus the 1 year of free agency in that contract. Like, let's do, like, the window's now. We talk about the window for Ellie, but like, it's the same thing, I think, for Hunter Green. The window is now to, like, win games with him under this contract, with these guys around him. A lot of people talk about building around Ellie, but they've been building around Hunter, and that you love to see that. Especially the acquisitions of Martinez, 2 seasons ago, and now Singer this season. I don't know. I guess I'm trying to find words to praise this rotation. I guess I'm coming up short. You know what I mean? Because Clay definitely is high on them. We're both high on their arms, and we got a guy in the minors that is their top prospect working through now at Chattanooga that we'll talk about later, and Chase Burns, and he might be the best of all of them when it's all said and done. Once maybe he gets up to the majors, maybe, I don't know. Like, it's a good problem to have with all these arms. You can't expect everyone to go out there and pitch 8 innings of shutout ball. So I'm not terribly concerned about Martinez's struggles. Also, he has that flexibility to be like a reliever, long reliever, a guy that comes in after the opener type of thing. So, yeah, and obviously everyone's going to point at his $21 million and be like, hey, he needs to do more. If we're still saying these kind of things at the end of May, yeah, I'll give some credence to that argument. But right now, you know what I mean? We just got to eat up those innings. We got to get through the rotation and mow down teams and hopefully win series with these 5 guys.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about building around Hunter Green, like, the Reds are in such a unique spot to where they have multiple key pieces to build around now. And like Jeff Passan said, well, it's a shame that the Pirates aren't building around Paul Skeens. Like, it's a shame the Reds aren't building around Hunter Green, Ellie De La Cruz, and Matt McClain. Like, that's 2 key pieces in the infield with Ellie and McClain up the middle. And I get it, McClain's been struggling here lately, but it's to be expected. And you have a legit ace in Hunter Green, and all of these guys are under team control for the next 5 years at least. You should be going all in right now. Like, there's no reason why our biggest fish should have been Austin Hayes. It should. Like, granted, I'm glad we didn't go out and get Santander. I had a feeling he was going to be a Moose 3.0 because we all see how Candelario is working out, and it just seems to be like our free agent targets are always aging, overweight infielders, 30 plus, and always on the decline. I guess maybe if we were going after somebody, Teoscar Hernandez, if we could have lured him away from the Dodgers, but I don't know. This year was such a weak class in the outfield. I think we got the best one available, and we got him really cheap. So I'm happy about that. And the Gavin Lux trade, too. Like, that, underrated. Him being an outfielder is really working out. He's playing the outfield really well. But I guess going back to pitching, Hunter Green, if you were to grade him right now, what would your letter grade be on Hunter Green?
Yeah, it's a good question. Just him individually. He got touched up, I think, also by Miami or what was it? Or the Baltimore, right? That Saturday game. Unfortunately, his ERA actually ballooned up to like 2.2 something, right? So it's like, oh man, shut him down type. No, I'm just joking. I'm kidding. But right now, I would say B plus. Like, obviously, you love that he's leading the pack, leading the guys out there as the opening day starter, throwing heat and doing all the things that you want out of a top of the line rotation guy. But I think he's got room for improvement, if that's crazy to say. Obviously you'd like to get wins out of him. He's, I think, 2-2 on the year. So I know wins are not necessarily a starting pitcher stat, in now the modern analytics game, so obviously I don't know if he'll win 20 games, but I'd love to see him win 15 this year, to say the least. Like, I feel like if he's in that range, then he's getting a lot of starts, he's getting a lot of innings, and he's getting chances to win with hopefully the offense backing him up sometimes, I would say for Hunter Green right now, B plus for Hunter. How about you? What are you thinking about Hunter?
I'm gonna go A minus. I think, like you said, there is room for improvement. It's hard to imagine that, though. He's 35 strikeouts, 6 walks, 8 earned runs. He's got as many earned runs as Candelario has RBIs. And if he can get better, I mean, he's the front runner for the Cy Young, in my opinion. He's that good, and to have him on the contract that we have him for is just unbelievable.
Oh, for sure. It's definitely, I think Clay also wrote about that. Best value for starting pitching, top line start pitching in the league. You know what I mean? Like, I guess Paul Skeens is still under rookie scale contract, so he's probably the most valuable if we're going to go like straight up dollar for dollar. But like, in terms of having an extension, like, I don't think anybody touches that. I mean, I feel like we're really pumping up the Reds front office a little bit lately. We talk about Hayes and Green and Singer, and rightly so a bit. Overall, for the whole unit, and I think the addition of Singer and Abbott coming out strong. Thank you for your service, Carson Spires, but I'm not sure if we'll see him much anymore if Abbott's going to be on. I think it pushes up the overall pitching staff to an A. I think we don't talk about Singer enough. Like, he seems to be kind of a throwback kind of guy that just he doesn't throw 100. He gets guys off balance. He gets them double play ball situations. He does have the ability to get whiffs. I think he had 8 strikeouts his last outing, 6 innings and 8 strikeouts against what was that? It was at Baltimore, I think. But so he's got the good stuff, and I really think he might be a guy that actually gets 200 innings if he keeps going at the rate he's going. He doesn't seem like a guy that's going to wear down or get injured, at least from what I could tell. So I think that really pushes up the whole staff, being a guy who's technically the 4th in the staff, right? Like, it's technically Martinez is the 3rd starter. Like if you're getting that kind of production out of your fourth, and then Abbott your fifth guy, like there's series that we probably have no business competing in and or winning if you can roll out all five of these guys. So, what are your thoughts on overall the starting pitching staff?
Yeah, I'll go. I guess with a median grade of a C, just a straight C, only because I think Martinez brings it down that much. I think I would give like Hunter Green's an A minus. I'm gonna give Brady Singer an A. I'm gonna give Abbott a B, and who am I forgetting?
You got Lodolo.
Lodolo. I'm gonna give Lodolo a B plus. So I'm gonna give Martinez a D, and I think that brings him down. That brings the overall grade down to a C. But we have guys that we're going to talk about later that are going to come up, and I think they're going to drastically improve that. Even if they have their rookie struggles, I think they're still going to be better than what Martinez is giving us. And we can't be afraid to look at his contract and go, you're more valuable in the bullpen and give us 2 innings, and that's all we need from you.
Yeah, wow. All right. Yeah, a little bit different grading. C's covers. I mean, there is definitely room for improvement for Martinez and maybe Lodolo a little bit. But I don't know. That's some strong grading there, Rick. I transitioning now to I would say the second best unit for the club, the infielders. We've got Ellie De La Cruz, McLean. I think Noel Marte is going to establish himself more and more at that third base. Candelario. Where do you put Steer? Is Steer now an infielder now that he's DHing and playing first? Like, I guess that's just a quick question off the top.
Steer's non-existent in my opinion. He's I guess technically, I guess you would list the DH as an infielder, but he's just not existent in my opinion. Him and Candelario both, but
yeah, and CES has got his struggles, and I think he's on the IL right now.
Yeah, and Steer did play first a couple times here recently. I guess the throwing program is working, but
yeah,
you can't cover up I think he's a 28 OPS plus. That's just brutal.
Yeah, we're gonna get more into him. I don't know if it's just the fans' rumblings or if there's something else going on that behind the scenes they're doing or not doing, but there's something else that seems to be in play with the whole Spencer Steer situation. But before that, the infield, I think this is the second best unit of the club, just on paper, and also I think in terms of production for me, contributing to players that are helping the club win on a daily basis. Obviously, a lot of these guys have had their struggles. Candelario, McLean, of most recent, and also his injury as well. Noel Marte is kind of trying to reestablish himself on the big league club, and he's had some good games, good defensive contributions as well. But the man that obviously leads the pack, much like Mr. Hunter Green, is Ellie De La Cruz, and I think he's been spectacular. Not necessarily, obviously, playing, I think, to his back of his baseball card, but just highlights alone and just contributions, just in terms of I think what they're asking from him, if that makes sense, like what Tito's asking from him, in terms of he's not trying to steal every time he's on base. He's not necessarily chasing pitches outside the strike zone as much as last season. So even though those are not necessarily the biggest statistical, you can point to and be like, oh yeah, that's why he's better this year. I still contend that he's obviously, like you pointed out, he's 23, still climbing toward that, what is considered 27, the peak of an MLB player. And he's still got a lot of things to work on, but I don't know. I think Chatterbox had pointed out, you have the errors with Ellie, but you don't have a chance if Ellie is not in your team. So you can't have it both ways, where you're lambasting him if he makes one error by booting a ball or by striking out. If he's not in the lineup every day, well, good luck. Like, what are you going to do then, right? But I don't know. What are your takeaways from the first month of these infielders?
I guess with Ellie, his errors aren't like detrimental to the outcome of the game for the most part. They're on basic routine plays, and he makes the incredible plays that save runs. So I guess I'd take the trade-off, I guess. Going back to Candelario and Steer, I got their baseball reference page pulled up right now. Candelario's played in 21 games. Steer's played in 18. Steer is a negative 0.6 WAR. Candelario is a 0.8 WAR, negative 0.8 WAR.
Oh, if it was positive, I'd be so surprised.
Yeah. And Steer has 1 home run. Candelario has 2. And you're gonna see where I'm going with this here in a second.
Yeah.
Steer has 10 hits. Candelario has 9. Candelario has 10 RBIs, and Steer has 5. Both of them have a batting average below 150, an OBP below 230, and a slugging percentage below 239. And Steer's OPS is a 29, or OPS plus is a 29, and Candelario's OPS plus is 18. With that being said, the Reds have a backup catcher who has more hits than both of them, who has the same amount of home runs as they both have combined, who is a positive 0.7 WAR, and is batting 500 on the season. He should be in the lineup every day until he shouldn't be.
Right.
At this point, he's got 26 at bats, 13 hits, 3 home runs, and if I can find his RBI total, I
want to say he's got 9 RBIs.
He has 11. So
11?
He has more RBIs than Candelario and Steer combined. So, if I'm grading Steer and Candelario, they are a negative F. Mm-hmm. It's unacceptable. Like, is there a pride thing with Steer not going on the IL? Is it him telling him he can play, and are they giving him a leash? Because he's only in his second full season in the big leagues. Like, he shouldn't have that much say, in my opinion. And then Candelario, I don't even know what to say about him anymore. I was going through Twitter just as one does. I'm a receipts guy. I like to find receipts on people.
Yeah. You've told me that a lot.
I remember December 7th, 2023, I tweeted, I really hope that Jamie Candelario doesn't turn into a Mike Moustakas situation. Would love to add another power bat, and we didn't. Mm-hmm. And, I would see people tweeting like, oh, he's nothing like Moustakas. His numbers are this, and Moustakas was this. But at the end of the day, you had a 30-year-old, not super athletic third baseman that physically is on the decline, and somehow Candelario's worse than what Mike Moustakas was for the Reds, and I didn't think that was possible. And it's disappointing because we're looking at how bad those two are playing instead of how great Ellie is and how Marte's actually playing pretty well. And McLean, he's struggling right now, but his start to the season was way better than what we expected. And he's probably where he's at right now is probably what I expected him to be at start the season. So it's a shame that they have a combined OPS plus of like not even 40. And we're looking at Ellie, who's quietly having a great offensive season, even though his numbers aren't what we expected them to be. He's still 5 home runs, 10 stolen bases somehow, and he's only one of 3 players in the league right now with that stat line.
Yeah, there's a lot there. And I forgot to mention off the top that infielders were including catchers because catchers are people too. And we didn't necessarily know where to exactly put them, but we're putting them in there, which actually I think helps the unit, as Ricky points out, that 2 kind of prominent guys that are in the lineup almost not every day. There was that stretch that Candy was benched, and I thought this was like going to be the, holding him accountable type of thing from Tito, but I don't know. I feel like they're keeping Candelario especially around just in case, God forbid, like McLean or Noel Marte or somebody may get injured. So we got bodies, we got flexibility in the lineup and whatnot. The question becomes when Stevenson comes, is ready. Like, is Candelario's at bats gonna get even? He's just gonna be a bench guy because there's the possibility of putting Stevenson at first. Because I'm all for putting Austin Wynns at DH if he's hot. Like, we're not here to give equal playing time to guys. You got a guy that's hitting the ball, seeing the ball really well. It's not just a one-off. It's not like he did all his hitting in that 24-2 game against Baltimore. He's been hot outside of that and deserves to play, rightly so. I'd be really. We'll get into it probably with the manager decision. Hopefully, these are not going to be the manager's decisions going forward, or the front office telling him we got to play Candy because he's a $45 million free agent. It's like, I don't know. I think I talked with Doug on Sunday about this. Like, if Marte kind of comes into his own and it isn't like the 2024 version of Marte, I think Candelario becomes expendable and you DFA him or get rid of him maybe after the season or sooner, depending on what we're looking at. Who knows? Maybe he's a trade target if the Reds are out of it. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities still. Obviously, still it's only 1/6 of the season, 25 games in, but the stat lines you threw out are, to say the least, they're very, like, I can't believe we have 2 Candelarios, right? Like it makes no sense to put both of them in the lineup if we're going to go that route. Like, unless there's something that we're not seeing outside of, what's out there on the field. Like, there has to be something going on. We'll touch on both of these guys as well later in the show about their exact struggles, but I don't know. I think, again, with the catchers overperforming, not just wins, pro wins show, but Jose Trevino. Jose Trevino, which both you and I were really high on going into the season, even before this Stevenson injury. We knew that Trevino would be a positive asset to this club, and I don't know. I guess 1-0 us for that take, But I think the overall grade that I'm looking at, because I don't know, a lot of these guys have had their struggles aside from the catchers. I don't know, like a B- might be where I'm looking, just because Ellie can pull out, like, that I call it a steal of home, but like, the infield was in and the fielder's choice went home. Like, he stole that base, basically, in my opinion. I know that's not necessarily how it goes down in the score sheet or how baseball people talk about it, but like, I think even Tito said there's only 2 guys in Major League Baseball that would have beat out that throw with that infield in and the ball hit kind of really right at the infielder. So, like, I know B- I feel is generous because, like you said, Candelario and Steer's kind of like struggles have basically been offset by wins and Trevino's positive contributions. So then I'm kind of looking at like McLean, De La Cruz, and Marte, and I feel like they're like in a B- range for me. How about you?
Yeah, and I'm looking at Marte's Baseball Reference. I was actually looking at film of him last night, and his swing. I noticed last year when he was swinging, he would pull his lead foot towards the third base side. And this year he looks more compact and he's stepping more towards the pitcher, which you're supposed to do. But his numbers last year were so bad. He was a negative 1.8 WAR in 66 games. He's a positive 0.3 in 9 games. His rookie year in 23, he was a 0.8 in 35. So if he's playing this way, he's going to be like close to probably a 5 WAR player this year.
Oof. Yeah, that's.
It could. I'm not expecting that, but if his trajectory is looking like it could be that,
Mm-hmm.
I think realistically he'll probably be like a 3. I think he's
that's still pretty good.
Yeah, and that's incredible. But like the way he's playing right now, he hit that home run on the last game of the series, 116.7 miles an hour. When he was doing that in 23, when he got called up, every ball he hit was hard. So, if I'm going to give a grade, I'm going to give, I guess I'll go quickly. I'm going to give Ellie an A-. I'm going to give McLean a B-. I'm going to give Marte a straight C, only because he's only been called up for 9 games.
Yeah.
Candelario's a negative F. Steer's a negative F. I don't think I could even give them a grade, honestly. And CES, I'm going to give CES a D- just because he hasn't performed even when he was healthy. So I guess overall, that would I gave the pitchers a C+. I'm going to give the infielders an overall C-. It sucks because you have the talent of Ellie and McLean and the potential of what Marte's showing being destroyed by just horrible play by Steer and Candelario.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about that report about Candelario being in his best shape ever. Like, okay, yeah, sure. Anyway, one last stat about wins. I know we always talk about wins equals wins. His record when he first started, like when he started games, the starting of this year, he was 0-5. But the last 4 games, he's 3-1. So now he's 3-6 on the year. And I even look back because he's basically the Luke Maile of this team, right? The 2024 backup catcher, Luke Maile. Shout out to him. But like Luke Maile always got, obviously a third day, the Sunday game, the getaway game. And you want to know what his record was when he started games?
What do you got?
Luke Maile, when he started games, the Reds went 14-32.
Ooh.
So not necessarily. I mean, I don't know what the win percentage of that. That's terrible. But anyway, like if Austin Wynns can be somewhat like, serviceable in those getaway games, like the Reds obviously are notorious. I gave that stat before. They were 9-20 in like Sunday games, and like if they can get something like Austin Wynns production on Sundays, I don't even care if it's like Trevino, the one that's the backup catcher. If Stevenson's going to resume kind of starting duties, we need something. We can't lose these Sunday games, the getaway games, like we have kind of in the past. But you were talking about how like the infield is like not playing up to the back of their card, and they have a lot of room for improvement. Well, this unit right here definitely was one of them that we had low expectations, and we felt that they had to contribute. And the outfielders, I think, it's been kind of a weird grade because time before Austin Hayes, oh man, really bad. Like, Spencer Steer out there, like Friedel is quietly kind of progressed. He's gotten better as the season has gone on. I think I saw Clay Snowden said that Friedel has 5 doubles this year, which matches his 2024 total in doubles, which is crazy to think about because we're just 25 games in and he's already matching that. So that's a positive at least. But like Fraley, singles Fraley up until that Mariners series a week ago or so, he was kind of really slow going into the season. Benson got called up for 1 game that we were talking about and got sent down the next day basically. The outfield, as very well documented, has its struggles, but post Austin Hayes, it's looking a lot better. Like I don't know how else to describe it because Austin Hayes came on the scene and just hit the snot out of the ball. Red of the week, 429, 3 home runs and 8 RBIs in 6 games. Like, yes, please. And then also another guy that's on the screen there, Gavin Lux, a guy that we didn't think was necessarily going to be hugely impactful, but just kind of be a platoon guy, fit in where he can get in. He's doing well in the outfield. I know you've you've commented how like the outfield has a bunch of noodle arms, but hey, you threw a guy out at second. He's no bum, you know.
Hayes has an arm, and so does Lux, but it's Friedel and Blake Dunn and Hurtubise and Fraley's got an okay arm, but
yeah,
Friedel missing that cutoff man really affected the outcome of that game. I'm looking at Baseball Reference again, and every outfielder has a positive WAR.
Really,
which is great. Austin Hayes is a 0.6, TJ Friedel's a 0.5, Gavin Lux is a 0.4, and Fraley's a 0.3 after his horrific start. To be a positive WAR is great.
Wow. Yeah.
I wish that we could have got a power bat. Just, I think to have the ballpark that we have, to not have a guy have more than 20 home runs, it's sad. When's the last time we had an outfielder with 20 home runs or more?
Well, there was the stat we did before with 30 home run outfielders. Nick Castellanos in 2021 was the last guy to get 30. Technically, I think Spencer Steer had 20 last year, and he was a kind of everyday outfielder. So it kind of there, but Spencer Steer is a whole other thing, and we'll get into it. There was a revelation on his injury that I heard about, which is interesting. But anyway, back to you about the outfielders.
Yeah, I think with Hayes coming back, that it's huge. He's on a hitting streak, I believe, too, isn't he? And so is Gavin Lux. He's hitting like 570 in his last, I think, 8 games or something. It's incredible. He's batting .316, and he got his first home run out of the way too. I think he's not a power hitter, but I think he'll hit his fair share. I could see him hitting at least probably 10 this year, which is, for him, it's pretty good because he's technically a second baseman.
Yeah.
But I think his leadership, being a part of that Dodgers organization with their winning culture, I think him, and people are going to hate on this too, but him with Francona, I think that's a good combination. I think you got winners on this team, and you got guys that want to win. Outfield wise, though, I think Hayes is clear cut probably our best outfielder, and I'd put Friedel as a close second. He looks a lot like 2023 Friedel, which I was really hoping to see. I was worried, just the injuries really scared me with him, just because he's so streaky that if he's not on, like, he really, his Friedel's WAR is almost like the engine for the team. If Friedel's not playing well, then it really affects everybody else. And kind of like Ellie in the infield, if Ellie's not playing well, you got to really rely on not so great talent to get you going. And I guess if you were grading outfielders, I guess we'll do this. We'll just go with the big 3, I guess, who we have pictured: Friedel, Hayes, and Lux. And I guess if you want to include Fraley as the 4th outfielder, because Blake Dunn, he's batting like 176, but he's still a positive WAR at 0.2, which is good to see for how much he's not hitting. He's having a positive impact. What's your grade on Lux, Hayes, and Friedel?
Yeah, and also just to touch on Dunn, they're hiding kind of Lux's outfield defensive liability by putting him late in games, which has been good because he got the final out, I think, in the last game in the Marlins series. So, like, I like how they're deploying Dunn in that way: pinch hitter, pinch runner, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, he should be a guy that's coming off the bench, not necessarily playing every day, which is great because obviously the Reds in years past have run out guys that probably shouldn't be everyday outfielders or infielders or wherever, but have to because they need a warm body or need somebody to do it. But for these 3 guys that you're talking about, like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of weird to, like I said, the delineation, the line of demarcation is like before Hayes and after Hayes. And to be honest with you, before Hayes, we didn't look very I guess it is surprising that they all have positive WAR numbers, because it feels like Fraley has been hitting Candelario type numbers. So I have no idea how he's still positive WAR. It must have been all from this last couple of games, last couple of series where he hit that grand slam and been kind of hitting a little bit better. But with these three guys, if we're talking about right now, because Hayes doesn't have the sample size that the other two have, I give them kind of like a B minus. Like they're on that cusp of being, like the positive contribution that we need out of this part of the club, because we were kind of lamenting that, yeah, we got Hayes, but he's got the 1 year, $5 million deal, which lets you think like the front office was like, yeah, we're taking a chance. This is not like the Santander deal, which honestly, I think we'll talk about this in the front office part, but like Santander's got like $92 million contract and has a negative 0.3 WAR. Like to have Hayes, even though it's just a weekend for him, basically, or 10 games or whatever it is, like I think that's a front office win. But it's still early days. You know what I mean? Like we'll see what Hayes looks like, because actually it might be a front office loss, because if Hayes is hitting this well, he's going to ask for some Santander level money at the end of this year. So like, it actually could blow up in their face to take this risk, and then all of a sudden be like, you know what? We actually can't afford you now. So thank you, Austin. We'll see you on the field for some other team. But I don't know. We're not there yet. Like I said, these three guys, if we're just going off of these are the everyday guys that are producing like they've been producing lately, a B minus I feel is it's not that bad of a grade. What are you thinking for these three guys?
Yeah, I think if you're doing the cutoff line with Hayes coming back, we're 4-5 with him, but we have not been shut out. So for a team that got shut out a lot early in the season, we haven't scored less than 3 runs since he's been back. So overall, I'm gonna give Hayes is gonna be a B plus. I'm gonna give Lux a B plus. I'm gonna give Friedel a B plus plus. I don't want to give him quite an A. And Fraley, it's hard because he was so bad, but that grand slam he had against Seattle, that was huge, and I think sadly got overlooked based because how they blew the game. My favorite moment from that game, just I want to touch on it really quick, was when he hit the grand slam and you could just see the relief in him, and then just the support his teammates gave him, like Ellie giving him a big hug in the dugout, like that. I hope that's a turnaround point for him, just because he's been through so much in the last year and a half, where personal issues outside of the game, health issues. He got sick last year, and he had the foot injury at the end of 2023 where it basically limited him to a DH role. And when he's hitting well, it really his left-handed bat really complements Hayes' right-handed bat perfectly. And to have 3, I guess you could say, legit lefty hitters, if Fraley's on with Friedel and Lux playing the way they're playing right now, that's a good dynamic to have, especially with Blake Dunn as your 5th outfielder right now, because Benson's playing well in AAA, but there's not really a spot for him. Like, you don't, at least right now, if Fraley's going to be the way he's been here in the last 4 games or so, I don't know what you do, because he got I hate it because he got screwed. He gets put up against a Hall of Fame pitcher in Justin Verlander in his first game back on the road. He strikes out 3 times against Verlander, and then he strikes out once against a reliever that I'm assuming was pretty good as well. I forget who it is. And we thought the same situation was going to happen with Marte. He gets relegated to a pinch pinch runner role, and they both get sent back down, and then everything happened, and then somehow they picked Marte over Will Benson, and I think that's just because would you rather have Will Benson not playing every day as your fifth outfielder, or would you rather have him play every day in the minors? Because you're not going to bench Friedel. You're not going to bench Hayes. Lux is playing very well right now. You're not going to bench him. Fraley's kind of getting it going, but he's going to be that platoon, not everyday right fielder, especially with Hayes and Lux. And then you got Blake Dunn, who has that speed dynamic, who's, I think, StatCast has him as the fastest player on the team this year. So it's a tough spot. And then I guess a long-winded answer of saying I give the outfield overall, it's shocker. I'm going to go B-. I'm going to say that right now they're the best asset that we have, because ever since Hayes came back, it's turned everything around. Yeah, we're not over 500. We're not setting the world on fire, but we were in a dark place, and I think with Hayes, his hitting just really got us back out of the gutter. And yeah, we're 4-5 with him, but we were terrible without him. And it's good. It's good to see that even with guys not playing how we want them to play, we're still in contention. Yeah, it's early, but we're still in contention with where we want to be towards the end of the season.
Yeah, for sure. And we agree on something. How about that? B-. Yeah, the other thing that I was just thinking on is like and we'll probably touch on this more with the manager grading, but like the rope for Benson has been real short. Marte a little bit too, but he got called up that second time. So there's that. But yeah, I like to think the turning point for Jake Fraley is that Mariners game where he got thrown out by a mile to end an inning, and that kind of was like overshadowed by the grand slam. So it's great that he got that grand slam in to kind of hopefully he's on the right track now. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question on what Tito's thinking in certain situations in terms of which guys get more at bats. Like we could probably talk about this all day, but anyway, the thing that I think Tito has got most right, especially after opening day, has been the relievers. And obviously the Jabot situation has been well documented on the show as what we necessarily have chalked up to he just got the Pagan one wrong, and the only right-hander he had left in that bullpen on opening day was Ian Jabot, and it doesn't look like Ian Jabot is going to get DFA'd any time. He's been pretty solid, and the bullpen has been pretty solid as well the last, like 3 or 4 weeks. They've had their struggles, obviously, but, like Pagan has the one blown save. Ashcraft had a bad outing his last time out. So, they're not all going to be perfect. We had the dreaded opener game with Brent Suter against Baltimore. But that was, I think the reason why that happened is because Lodolo was having his baby, right? So he went on paternity leave for a couple days. So I'll forgive the Reds for doing an opener then. It was supposed to be Lodolo. Lodolo got bumped to Monday. No harm, no foul, but let's not make a habit of this, right? So I think the relievers actually have been in a pretty good spot because going into the season, they did not have Alexis Diaz, on opening day roster. And Alexis Diaz has been obviously a big talking point of contention because it looks like, I don't want to be too negative because we're going to probably talk about him a little bit later in a different segment. It doesn't look like he's the 2023 Alexis Diaz, to say the least. And we got Pagan. Pagan's got 5 saves on the season. It's looked pretty good. Doug, Mr. Graham Ashcraft has looked great in terms of just a revelation of a guy that we didn't know what we're going to get out of, basically, changing him from a starting pitcher to reliever. Who else am I missing? There's a bunch of guys that have been pretty solid that you just go to. The Sam Mole, I think he's been injured, so he's got like an incomplete grade for him.
The fireman, Tony Santillan.
Oh yeah, Tony's been great. It's been a pretty solid for the Reds, right? Because like we've talked about, like sometimes everything has to go perfectly to plan, and sometimes that one thing that blows up is the Reds, like seventh or eighth inning where they got to just try to keep a 1-run lead, and unfortunately, like the Mariners game, you have a 7-5 lead, and boom, two home runs to blow up that game. But I don't know. I guess I'm talking myself into like thinking of a lower grade now because I feel like they got even a better ceiling, especially if you got guys like I think we've talked about in the past and maybe before the show, Maxwell, Luis May. Like this staff might be even better. Like we might have some situations where some guys might be, redundant. They might be traded or DFA'd if they're not up to snuff. And relief pitching is kind of hard to nail down year on year. Sometimes there's guys that come out of nowhere and are great one year, and then they're just terrible and don't have their stuff the next year, right? But yeah, getting a solid bullpen that we've had so far has helped us win some games, and obviously there's been some situations where we dropped some. I don't think it's been an overwhelming problem, right? Like I don't think we're like every single night we're just like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen now? Like type of situation. But I think Terry has figured out which guys he wants to go to in given situations, so that way, they end up finishing off the opponent and getting the win. But I don't know. My grade, I'm still deciding. But what are your takeaways on so far for the relief pitching?
I might be a little controversial. I think the bullpen is our best asset.
Really?
I do. Tony Santillan has an ERA of 1.38. Ian Jabot's 4.2, but his is from opening day.
Yeah.
Graham Ashcraft's 0.84.
There was that one. He had like 4 unearned runs in that one game.
Yeah, a lot of errors.
Yeah.
Brent Suter having that opener. He's down to 1.86. Taylor Rogers 2.25. Our weakest links right now, as far as bullpen ERA, is Diaz. He's a 6.75. Barlow's a 4.5, which he's done pretty decent those last couple times out. I think he got touched up a little bit earlier in the season in the what was it? I forget what game it was. And Sam Mull is an 18 ERA, but he's been put in some weird spots early in the season too, and he's just looked off. I don't know what it is with him. I know he's hurt right now, but like he just didn't look great. And I think when we do get Maxwell and we do get May, and I wouldn't rule out the possibility of the Reds doing a David Price Tampa Bay situation where you bring up Chase Burns and put him in the bullpen.
Okay.
If you replace 3 weak links with Barlow, Diaz, and I guess I don't want to get rid of Jabot because he's got the highest strikeout per 9 in the bullpen right now. He's at 9.3.
Really?
I see a world where you could bring up May and Maxwell and you can replace Diaz and Barlow if you're going to do that. That's a perfect swap out because you're going to add 2 back of the bullpen fire hoses with Tony Santillan who can touch up to 99. I'm going to give the bullpen an A-. Just I think Pagan looks so much better than he did last year. I was on the bandwagon of cutting him in the offseason. Just how he gave up too many clutch moments where it was reverse clutch where it just didn't look good. He had too many fly balls.
Yeah.
And like this year, his fly balls are missing barrels and they're just weak pop-ups. And if he's going to be our closer, that's who we need. I think he's the perfect closer that we have right now. Diaz, I can't trust him. If his fastball's not hitting the zone, guys are just going to sit on the slider and they're going to take all the walks in the world. Diaz right now actually has a 4.5 strikeout per 9, but he's a negative 0.1 WAR with a 2.0 WHIP, and it's not good. But if you take the positives from the bullpen, I think the positives from the bullpen outweigh the negative because we do have reinforcements coming eventually. May might come later. I think Maxwell is going to come first, but you have Jabot. He's still at a 1.2 WHIP. Like he's overall, Pagan's a 0.44 WHIP, and Suter's a 0.83. He's our fourth best reliever. It just his ERA, he gets killed for opening day, and it's not his fault. It's partly Francona learning who he has, and yeah, I think overall. And then Ashcraft, I saw a comment. I might save this for our Facebook comment of the week on Sunday, but it said Graham Ashcraft can't relieve games. He can't start games. Maybe try him as a ball boy. I'm just like, come on. He's got the lowest ERA in the bullpen. It's and he's being used. It's not like he's just been one game here, one game there, and his ERA is low. Like he's performing well in the bullpen, and I think he's really embracing it. He's at a 7.6 strikeout per 9, which he's not really known as a swing and miss strikeout guy anyway. So I'll take it. I'll take what he's given us, and Pagan's really been a really pleasant surprise for me. I don't know what's your I guess takeaways and your grading for the bullpen.
Yeah, I've been going back and forth because this has been a bright spot in terms of Pagan, Ashcraft. Alexis Diaz now just coming on the scene after doing a rehab. It's not fair to kind of grade him too harshly. His numbers are not great, given that 3-run home run to the Marlins. That kind of sealed the win for them. I think the first game of the series, like it hasn't been perfect for the bullpen. I'm actually most concerned about kind of Pagan and Ashcraft because they're not like whiff rate guys. So like, do you think like possibly like batters could catch up to these guys? And it's Great American Small Park. I'm not saying there's going to be a repeat of like the Mariners hitting 2 home runs off Pagan every time, but you know what I mean? Like you kind of need a guy, especially a setup or a closer that's going to blow by bats just to get, close out those last 3 outs, right? Like, I don't know. I obviously I'm not saying anything in the advanced numbers that indicates that they are like, you know what I mean? Like, because effectively wild description that we had of Diaz last season, where he had like a 4 or 5 ERA, but still getting saves. Like, I'm not seeing that necessarily right now for Ashcraft and Pagan. Still early. They're getting their jobs done, and obviously we're grateful for it because the Reds need every win they can get at this rate so they can stay in contention and hopefully build on that, build on the successes that they've had. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I think I'm leaning toward more like a B. I think if we can get another guy in, if that is May or Maxwell, we profiled May. He didn't have the greatest of week last week where he had a bunch of walks. He had like an outing where he went 2/3 of an inning and had 4 walks, so he's got maybe some control issues to work on. Maxwell could be up before him, but I don't know. Maybe this is like where they upgrade again, kind of like how they traded for Sam Moll a couple seasons back. Maybe they go in the market and trade somebody. There was somebody that was talking about that Taylor Rogers might be possibly dealt, but we can talk about that later in the front office type segment later on. But like the bullpen's good. I don't know if they've been great. They've been a little bit rocky more lately. They definitely were good at the beginning of the season, except for opening day, obviously. But like they've been solid. I wouldn't say this is their best unit because I feel like it's tough. You can't win as a reliever in sometimes because like your job is to make sure that you don't get the blame, right? Like reliever's job is like they get 3 outs. No one cares. Like that's your job. That was what we expect of you. Like, you know what I mean? No one's writing in all-stars to be like, middle relief guys that are getting all the all-star votes. You know what I mean? Like, and I think our guys have gotten in their groove Francona's gotten in their groove to figure out where to deploy them in certain situations. I'm actually surprised at how many high leverage situations they've been putting Ashcraft in, given it's his first season really as a reliever. So like I said, pleasant surprises, but I'm kind of concerned mostly about the Alexis Diaz of it all, and hopefully no more injuries, obviously as well going forward, because I know that can be a thing for the Redlegs. But I'd give it a solid B. Like they're maybe the second or third best unit of the club for me, maybe behind the starting pitching. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's still some room for improvement. Again, if we can get a 2023 Diaz back, I think that raises our ceiling, for what we can do in terms of who's coming out of that bullpen. You know what I mean? But yeah, any other thoughts or anything on the relievers?
I've seen some people online talking about maybe just putting Diaz back in that closer role because that's where he thrives. But I can't mess with what Pagan's given us. It's difficult because he's actually, it'd be different if he was struggling, but he's been very serviceable as our closer. Yeah, that's about all I got. I like our bullpen. I think I'm probably higher than most are, but I think looking at long term too, just with May and Maxwell coming up, and I wouldn't be shocked if Burns was a bullpen pitcher just this year, and then obviously he fights for a rotation spot next year or the year after. But yeah, I like our bullpen a lot.
Yeah, or Burns becomes a starter and you got Martinez in the mix. Things like that can happen. Yeah. Speaking of Pagan, where he kind of roughed up, we've highlighted that game, the Mariners game, that hopefully we can all flush from our memories when we get in the playoffs this year. But he also bounced back by getting the save for the third game of the Marlins series, which shows you that Tito has faith in him. He's not just going straight to Alexis Diaz, even though Alexis Diaz did give up that 3-run home run. So maybe that kind of factored into the thinking. But there have been some guys that Terry has given a lot of rope, given a lot of leeway to kind of just go out there and kind of figure it out. And we've lamented that there's been a lot of guys over the last couple seasons and in the past that they get up to the Major League Ball Club and they just get to figure it out. You know what I mean? Marty Brenneman's always been not an advocate of like, hey, you shouldn't be learning the fundamentals when you're on the big league club. And if you're not producing, why are you in the lineup? But I guess the thing I'm trying to get to is like, what has been your takeaways of Terry's deployment of, say, like a Candelario, a Spencer Steer, early in the season, Jake Fraley getting trotted out there hitting, Candelario type numbers. Like, what are your thoughts from, like, do you think that's just Francona trusting veterans, or is it he just thinks that they're just, if they get enough at bats, they're going to catch on? Like, what are your thoughts there?
I think he's trying to figure out what he has. For one, he had the year off. I think that can have an effect. And having a young roster and being that old school, try to set the everyday lineup every day. And I guess it's difficult because you want to have continuity and consistency, but then when you have guys that are consistently struggling day in and day out, you kind of expect the change to happen, and we're not seeing it. But we talked about it in the Clay interview, where I'm not 100% sold that he has 100% decision making in a lot of his lineups and everything. I think Candelario's contract has a big say in what's been going on, and Fraley's due arbitration. I think he's in his is this his final year of arbitration going into this offseason, so the next offseason would be a free agency year.
Yeah, it could be.
And Steer, I guess, him being that utility guy, you want him to get it going, so when he is available to play all the positions, he's a positive impact. But I guess my main takeaway with Francona is we just got to give him more time. We're a month in. People are already calling for his head, which is insane to me. Which I don't know how you do that for a guy that is the stock that he has and the caliber manager that he is. He's arguably the best active manager in baseball. You could put him up there. Him, I guess, Dave Roberts. Forgive me. I don't know who else you would put up there. I think those two are.
Aaron Boone's been doing it a while at the Yankees.
Yeah. I guess those would be like the three that I would have at like the top. And it's not often in the last, I'd say, 40 years we've had that caliber of a manager. I mean, we went from Dusty Baker to Brian Price to David Bell. And then you go back, you had, Jack McKeon. It's just, I was always under the camp that they should have struck on Aaron Boone when they could have, just because of the history of him playing here. I'm not a big, former player, hire him guy, but you can tell with certain players that they have manager qualities. I think Trevino is going to be one of those guys. I think Trevino is going to be a manager in his future. Maybe even Austin Wynns. I think he could be a manager too. Just catchers usually project well as managers.
Yeah, for sure.
But with Francona, I think he's really not trying to step on too many people's toes. I think eventually, there's going to be a time where he's going to snap. You saw him in Cleveland when things weren't going well. He gets hot, and I think he's trying to. I think he's in the honeymoon phase, and obviously things aren't going great. But I think he's trying not to upset too many people at the same time. And we're seeing him now with Candelario. He's sat him a couple times, and we've won, or we've at least hit well. And I think Steer's going to be next. I don't know what's going on because Espinal hasn't been playing much the last few days. I don't know if there's like an injury situation or if he's just not confident in him. But yeah, I guess if I was to grade Francona's first month, I would give him a C-. Just there's some questionable things. I'm not an analytic guy. I don't know. Players are human. If you were to go by analytics, Austin Wynns would never play a game. He'd be once a week, no matter what. And guys are human, so I'm gonna give him a C-, just because the questionable every once in a while left on left, not calling for a pinch hitter when you probably should. Yeah, and I don't see it getting worse than that. I think May this year, knock on wood, I think May this year is going to be a whole lot better than May of last year. Just hot take. And yeah, I just think that it's going to get better, and we do have hopefully some more positive things coming. What do you think? What do you think about Francona?
Yeah, for sure. I agree with the May. I think we're 9-16 or something like that last May, or worse, 8-18, something like that. Really bad.
It was almost 20 losses.
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, for Francona, yeah, there has been some missteps, I guess you could say, some mistakes in terms of choices and figuring things out. I'm mostly kind of fixated on kind of the relying on the veterans. You were talking about Fraley. Fraley is going to be an unrestricted free agent after the 2026 season. So he's got one more arbitration after this year. It'll be interesting how that goes. If he has a good year, they may bring him back. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what they do there. But like Francona's kind of been learning the club, learning the guys, figuring out what works, what doesn't. Obviously, the things that haven't worked have blown up pretty quickly, and we've obviously talked about it at length. But I don't think there's any. I know they've lost the ball club, or it's not. We're nowhere near that in terms of like his approach to the game. And I was actually commenting because our guy Greg Red Staley 4 always posts the manager interview right after the game, and like I don't know, man. Like obviously we've gotten jaded by the David Bell robotic answers and him just kind of having no emotion and say, we're really close when they've been, like getting their butts kicked in May, so he's got like a better feel in terms of like he's not the robotic. I don't feel anything like. He just, I don't know. What I said to Greg was like, I think he just talks like a fan. Like he just talks like how we would react. Like, it really stinks that we gave up those runs. We really shouldn't be in that situation, yada, yada. Like, so he's not like giving like, front office answers where he's maybe protecting guys' feelings or it's just saying nothing so that the media has nothing to write about or they have to try to guess what he means. So I don't know. It's refreshing to an extent. He hasn't blown his gasket. So I guess we should take some, notes from that. Like, you know what I mean? Like if he was getting out of the dugout, getting thrown out all the time or getting pissed and getting in people's faces, maybe that's where we should be as a fan base in terms of our frustration. So maybe we should take some notes from our manager and say like, hey, it's not been great. It hasn't been horrible, but we're going to get there. And hopefully that's kind of been the message he's been preaching because there are some guys that are starting to get there. There are some guys that are still struggling, that's to me, that's the frustration. Like you talked about a little bit, the Spencer Steer situation frustrates me because we know how good this player is and he is not himself. And to take up a spot in the lineup when he is kind of 50% of himself, I would say, like that doesn't seem like
maybe less.
Yeah, that's like, what I mean? That's like when they put CES out there after you hit his wrist and he was not the same player and he ended up having surgery. Like, I don't want Spencer Steer's fate to be, I shouldn't have played. Now I'm more messed up. And speaking of that, that's the thing I was alluding to earlier was on Jim Day's podcast, Spencer Steer was on it and talked about how he was playing in the outfield in June, jammed his shoulder into the wall, and that's where that injury has kind of all come from. So we're talking about nearly a year ago, this injury has plagued him. What are we doing? This is not like we're game 160 and we need to get a win to get in the playoffs. This is game 25 of the season. He's hitting Candelario numbers. There's no need to have him play at 50%. We've got bodies. I hate to say it. I'd rather have Blake Dunn play than have a hurt Spencer Steer. I hope when Stevenson comes up, he's playing for his space and Steer is on the IL or wherever he needs to be at the bench, throwing program, injury program, whatever it ends up being, something. I don't know. That's the part that bugs me the most. And something, if I was a Charlie Goldsmith, I'd be asking every day, like, why are you playing Steer? Like, what are we doing? Like,
yeah.
Are you trying to like prove that he's not hurt? Because he looks pretty hurt. So I don't know. That's just me. So for a grade, I'd give him a solid C because there's definitely room for improvement. And if he can get more out of these guys, like I was lamenting earlier, like they should be playing at a higher level. Now it's early, so the Reds like to play their best baseball in June, so we're building up to that hopefully. But like you can't win the World Series in April and May, but you certainly can knock yourself out of the race. So hopefully that's not the narrative going forward. Hopefully we're going to keep ourselves in contention. Hopefully the manager is going to, maybe pull out some wins that we probably shouldn't have, and hopefully avoid the bad losses that we have seen in the past when managers have kind of, done that to the Reds. But I don't know. So far, so good. He's got 3-year contract, and honestly, the frustrations of 2025, I think are like, the signings and stuff like that. The players he's been given this year isn't to win in 2025 per se. Hopefully we're talking about 2026 in a different, like, oh yeah, we signed Luis Robert. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hopefully that's the direction we're kind of building toward, getting the foundation set, getting Tito's philosophy set, and then then we're really going to put our chips in, proverbial, or put in the Castellini's paychecks. Hopefully they'll be signing some bigger checks, in 2026. That's my thought. Not sure exactly if that's what the front office thinks, and we can talk about that in the front office segment. But yeah, overall, any other thoughts for Mr. Francona?
I think I think I talked on it earlier. I think he is starting to figure out what he has and what he doesn't have. Playing Marte every day is a step in the right direction, because he is performing. And if Marte is going to be up here, he needs to play every day. And he's not the player that needs to learn. He just needs consistency. And yeah, his defense at third is still kind of not there. But, you're not going to put him at shortstop because you got Elliott short. You're not going to move McLean from second because he's one of the best, I would say, one of the best defensive second basemen in the game. And I think with Marte, it's just figuring out, I saw the play where he short hop steer in the Baltimore game. It was a relatively easy play, but he still, he short hopped steer. But I think that play was more on steer than it was on Marte. Yeah, he could have given him a better throw, but Steer's positioning at first was just atrocious. He had his foot halfway on the bag. He was not in a good position. Votto makes that play. Pete Alonso makes that play. Vlad Jr. makes that play. I just think, name a decent defensive first baseman, they're going to make that play. And it comes down to Steer not playing the field every day. And it's just, with Francona, I think him giving Marte a chance to play every day and kind of experimenting in the outfield with Lux and Hayes, it's a step in the right direction, and I think it's just going to get better.
Yeah, he's not a first baseman. Let's just say it. I'm not here to smear Steer at all, but he's not. I don't think he's a first baseman. He's definitely an outfielder because he's got the power that we possibly need for the club, but he's not himself either. Also, can we make a new rule? I don't know. I'm not, again, I'm like you. I'm not an analytics guy. Can we make a new rule? The lineup has to have positive WAR guys. How about that? If you're not a positive, if you're Candelario, no, you'll come off the bench and you gotta maybe you'll get the getaway game, the Sunday game, and you get your WAR up then, right? Prove it. Prove it basically that you can do this at the major league level. The surprising stat is there's the outfield guys are probably the best unit because if you probably add up all their WAR, they're probably the best unit, right? If we were going to go based on that, I don't know. I'm frustrated, obviously, with a couple of the player situations. I don't know. I'm getting borderline, Trace territory, and I don't want to do that. But anyway, moving on from Tito, we talk about the farm system all the time in our Sunday recap show. We obviously have a lot of favorites, a lot of guys that we really like coming through. We unfortunately missed the Chase Burns train in Dayton. That went quickly to Chattanooga, so congrats to him moving up, doing the Rhett Lauder experience of going to Dayton, probably going to be in Chattanooga for probably a month and a half, and then probably on to Louisville for the back half of the season, to be honest with you, or if not sooner, up to the big league club like we've talked about. But, I don't know. They didn't play today. I wonder when Chase Burns' debut is going to be for Chattanooga. It hasn't been announced as far as I can tell. Have you heard anything about that?
I haven't. I'm going to give it a quick look real quick. I think it would be relatively soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Either way, just look out for Chase Burns. We'll definitely probably post about it on Twitter if you guys are following us. Make sure you check us out there and Facebook and Instagram and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you guys watching us. The minor leagues, we're really positive. I don't know. I'm getting real Nick Kirby vibes of lately. We're if the major league club's not doing good, then I start looking at the box scores and the highlights of the minor league clubs just to make myself feel a little bit better about our future as an organization. And there's definitely a bunch of guys that are on the way to say the least, right? Like we got guys in AAA that, Benson, Hines have been doing pretty well. In Chattanooga, you got your guy Sal Stewart. Yerlin Confidant, the Dragon's been good, which is good because we need outfielders. I feel like, we talk about those, and Clay, I think, talked about this in her interview. He's not really high on the outfield depth for the Reds. So if we can get some guys, through the lower levels, then we'll be in a good spot. But are there any other guys you want to shout out or any other things? I feel like it's hard to grade this because you're not here to win minor league championships, but I don't know. I feel like we have a pretty healthy system, at least right now.
Yeah, one guy, I'm just a big fan of his. I guess more so as a person than as a player. But Austin Hendrick, just his turnaround this season is really, really a surprise. He was up for the Rule 5 draft. They didn't select him, obviously, and he made it through. I kind of give him a pass in a weird way because the 2020 draft, there wasn't really many good players out of that draft anyway. But he was drafted out of high school. Pennsylvania actually canceled their season, so he was technically a junior level high school baseball player. Like he was a junior, and there was only 5 rounds in that draft. This year, in 39 at bats, he's batting .282, 2 home runs, 8 RBI, 2 stolen bases with an .818 OPS. For context, he's a career .205 hitter with a .648 OPS, and he's still only 23. Like, we forget that he was drafted out of high school. He was 18. He turns 24 later this year. But I give him a pass only because he missed his senior year in high school. The whole minor league situation in 2021 where it got kind of reshuffled. Tyler Stevenson was drafted in 2015, and he made his debut in 2020. So there was 5 years of him in the minor leagues developing.
Yeah.
We're in the 5th year of Hendrick, but you could almost say it's his 4th year just based off of everything.
Yeah.
If he can do what he's doing, there's a chance he gets called up to AAA this year. It could happen, especially if Will Benson gets promoted. They would obviously need an outfielder. We have 0 outfield depth relatively ready to come up. I think Benson and Hines are like our only options. I guess Tyler Callahan can play in the outfield.
Yeah.
But like Hendrick, he's got raw power. Like he can, and if he can harness that and get a respectable batting average, respectable for me is anything better than Steer and Candelario at this moment. If he can hit 230,
yeah,
and have pop, I would like to see him promoted. And Double A is such a weird league anyway. They do all these experiments. They have the weird ball where I think 3 games out of the week they use like a really sticky ball. So it's hard. I think Double A is harder for hitters. And I don't know. I'm just happy to see him actually progressing for once. And it's I'll root for him just for on that aspect. And I guess if I'm picking another player, I'll go down to the Dominican League. I want to see more out of Adolfo Sanchez. He kind of struggled last year. He's a really highly rated prospect out of Venezuela. He's still only like 17, I think. He's about to turn 18. He's got center field defense with like corner outfielder hitting ability. He's relatively good speed. I I'm a big fan of his, and if anybody's on social media, he's a really good follow on Instagram because he's always posting his workouts and posting him in the field in the batting cage. Like, if there's one thing I can say about him, he's constantly working.
That's good.
And that's the kind of guy I want on my team. Like whether or not you're showing it, but to be able to prove that you're doing it is a good sign. And he's young, and I think he's the 22nd ranked prospect in our farm system right now. I'm high on him, and like I said, we need outfield depth, and I think if him and Confidon and Hendrick and Hines is still young. What's Hines? 24.
Yeah,
and Benson's 25. Like
around there, yeah.
They're not dead in the water, you know. It's, and especially like that's why I give Hendrick so much credit, because he was struggling. Yeah, you could still, I guess you could still technically call him a bust. You know, first round pick, didn't get promoted within the first 4 years, whatever. But he's turned it around, and to hit 282, I think that's obviously it's a career high. It's nice to see. It's a welcome sign, and I'm really happy for the kid because I think he still has potential to be good.
Yeah, for sure. And we're pro Austin Wynn show, and we're a pro Austin Hendrick show. Two Austins.
Pro Austin, man. We're pro Austin.
Yeah, and just shout out a couple other guys that have been doing well lately. Is Chase Petty. His last outing went 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, and just 1 hit given up, no earned runs. And Luke Hayden in Dayton Dragons, another guy in Dayton, 5 innings, 1 hit ball, season ERA 0.63 for Luke Hayden. So he might get the call up too soon. So if we want to see Luke, we have to get out to the Dare ballpark sooner than later. So I don't know. It's kind of weird to grade the minors. I know they always have like who's got the best system rankings and stuff like that. And it's like, that's cool if you got like a top, system, but I feel like they always give the Pirates like a top 5, but like the Pirates can't do anything with it when they get up there. So it's weird to grade the minors and be like, yeah, we got the best minors, but like if they can't win at the top level, then what's it worth? You're just stacking a bunch of first round picks. Okay, fine, but they gotta win, ball games for your team. But I don't know. I feel like I won't give a grade. I don't know if you feel like giving a grade. I like highlighting the guys that are doing well, and we're really happy for Austin Hendrick. Hopefully, he'll be able to move on up or maybe get the call up. There's some guys that get that AA call up straight to if they really need a bat or they really need a pitcher. But moving on. Some guys that we're also going to try to highlight is our 3 up, 3 down, kind of like our segment we do on Sunday nights. It's the 3 guys that are doing well, and I joked with Ricky before the show that I couldn't even find 3 guys. It ends up being 6 up, 6 down because I don't know. It just we want to highlight the guys that have really been doing well for the Redlegs at the big league club, and our 3 guys that are up, or at least the 3 guys that I settled on, is the catchers, Hunter Green and Hayes. So Austin Wins is there, but also shout out to Jose Trevino. Kind of putting them. They're kind of like one player. Like you add their WAR, they play the same position, very specialized position. So I feel like they're just like one player because they're, they rotate, every so often for each other. But yeah, Jose Trevino and Austin Wins. I think together they're a 1.0 WAR. So play the guys that are positive WARs. I feel like that's like a simple metric we can do. Like Spencer Steer, take a rest. Candy got benched earlier this week. Take a rest. These guys are producing their positive WAR. Get them out there. Hunter Green, already touched on him a lot. He's the guy. Captain of the team in my opinion. And then Austin Hayes, Gavin Lux, shout out, and Terry Lee, Friedel. Shout out to those guys, the outfielders, basically. All these guys we touched on. I'm glad that a bunch of these guys were additions in the offseason, right? Like Lux, Hayes, Trevino. That bodes well for at least the front office grade that we'll get to in a little bit. But, it means that also maybe some other guys that are already on the club need to really kind of step up. What are your thoughts about the 3 up?
Yeah, and we're gonna lump the catchers as one. They are a positive 0.9 WAR, according to Baseball Reference. Here's a good one for you. Austin Hayes' OPS plus is 281. 281. That's 181% better than league average. And and Trevino is a 127 OPS plus. Do we have the best catching team in the game at this moment?
Yeah, I don't know. Austin Wells at New York had a pretty good start to the year. I don't know if he's continued his hot streak. I don't know. Adelaide Rushman looked kind of average when we saw him, but that's a good question.
We got 16 RBIs out of our catchers. Trevino's batting 308. Wynn's batting 500. And defensively, they're not doing too bad. I think Trevino, like his age, is kind of showing with his arm strength, and he's never really been a great throw-out catcher.
Yeah.
But everything else about his defense, his framing's top-notch. It's such a welcome sign. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It's such a tough decision to make when because Stevenson's coming back soon. It's going to be sooner than later.
Yeah.
Do you keep three? Because we had a time where we had three catchers. We had Casale, Maley, and Stevenson. Do we keep a third catcher, and then that's when you put Steer on the IL, and then you have Stevenson or Wins as your DH? Just because obviously I think CES is going to be the everyday first baseman. Candelario, I think he's just going to be relegated to a bench bat. I don't know what else you do with him. And then I guess DH wise, if you have Fraley and Lux in the outfield, you could DH Hayes because he's hitting well. But yeah, I mean, like I think as a group we have the best catchers in the game, and that's fun. And, we have a Cy Young caliber pitcher with a contending Cy Young caliber pitcher, I would say, in Lodolo. I think he's got the ability to be a Cy Young contender.
Yeah.
He might not win, but I think he could be a finalist or at least get votes. And like Hayes and Lux, like it's nice to see guys that we've acquired, like everybody on this list we've acquired this year other than Hunter Green. And I never thought I would give this front office credit. We're going to talk about that later too, but for what we spent, like they're really outdoing what they're being paid and what they were worth. I guess this is a really welcomed 3-up. It's kind of cool because like we're doing a 3-up on the major league club. Like usually we're doing 3-up, 3 down on the minors, which yeah, it's awesome. I think just Austin Wins and Jose Trevino. We got so many nicknames for Wins. Wins equals wins and Wednesday and everything else. Like there's so many. It'd be different, but he's actually playing well. It's awesome.
Yeah, for sure, and you love to see it, especially because I don't know. I was a Luke Maley fan as well, even though he might not have had the production that Wins is doing right now. But you gotta love your backup catcher. It's just part of.
He's a local guy too.
Yeah, Northern Kentucky guy for sure. But yeah, you gotta love your backup catcher. It's just part of being a fan. But anyway, yeah, these guys. It is interesting that it's only one guy that was with the club last year. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about in the perspective of who's doing well and who's not. But the guys are not doing so well. We're like we talk about with the minors. We hope that this is just a temporary thing. But we've already kind of touched on them a little bit. The three guys that are down at the moment is Candyman, Spencer, and Alexis. And I don't know how much more we can say. Hopefully we're not getting overdoing it in terms of our complaining about their situations, but I don't know. I feel like these three guys, if they are going to be on this team, they need to be productive, and I think they can be. They have the histories, but Candy, it's kind of talk about shutting down narratives. the whole like he's in the best shape of his life is like okay. And then like the narrative, oh yeah, Spencer Steer's ready to go opening day. It's like, okay, well then what is this? And then, Alexis Diaz probably is the, I don't know, the least problematic of these. He's just coming back from injury and getting back into hopefully, back into his kind of, his form. But I don't know. It's frustrating. You're always going to have guys that are not going to necessarily perform right off the bat. And we're 25 games in. But I think each three of these situations are kind of have their own dynamic. And I like to think that, like you were talking about, bringing Stevenson up, making Hayes a DH, so you can have like Lux and Friedel, and if Fraley's doing well, you have Fraley out there. But like, let's get real with Spencer Steer and Candelario. I feel like there needs to be some real conversations being had if they're not putting up the numbers that they've done in the past. It's not like these guys are career 120 hitters, But I don't know. Then I guess that's the argument for giving them the at bats because they'll get back to that. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on these three guys and their situations?
Yeah, Candelario is a notorious slow starter. It's been documented. In 2023, he hit 245 in April, and then in May he hit 295. And then June and July, he hit around 250, 275 in August, and then he tapered off in September. Last year, he had the knee injury and a toe injury, and that kind of slowed him down. But last year, in March, he hit 182, 190 in April. And then in May, he started to warm up. He went 247, and in June, he hit 290. So I don't know how I feel because his at bats just look so bad. The game against Seattle, they're down by 4 runs. He's swinging at a slider at his feet. You're not going to tie the game up down by 4 as a leadoff hitter, and it's just he's poor at bat after poor at bat. Hopefully, he can get going. I think with Marte playing the way he's playing, you kind of can't replace him. You gotta have the hot hand, and he's playing well. Maybe you relegate him to the DH role, and maybe Stevenson at first, CES when he comes back. I would like to see him get some time in the minors just because I think he needs it. He's not seeing the ball great. He's chasing. He looks like 2003 Vladimir Guerrero, where he's swinging at balls at his neck and balls that bounce in the dirt. Yeah. But yeah, Steer. I don't know how I feel about Steer because I don't see his ceiling being that high. I don't think he's as bad as he is, but I don't see him as like I don't know, because 2 years ago he was a 25 home run, 20 stolen base. Last year he had a horrible average, but he had almost 100 RBIs. I think he's in between there. I think he could get hot, and I could be wrong. But like there was a reason why there were rumors of potential trades, including him this offseason. I think there was one that was with the Phillies. I think they were talking about acquiring Alec Boehm for Steer, and then maybe somebody else. But then you have a third baseman again, and then what do you do with him? What do you do with Marte? What do you do with Candelario? And I don't know. And with Diaz, it's a tough spot for him because I think he's at his best when he's in the closer role. But like we talked about earlier, I just you can't put him in there when you got a closer that's actually playing well. So he's got options. I'll never understand why he gets this leash. Like we act like these guys are just set in stone big leaguers when they're not. And you could move him down and then promote somebody or sign somebody else outside the organization for temporary. It's how much worse can it really be with what he's doing? Because when Diaz's fastball isn't on, nothing's working, and you can't have that, especially towards the back of the bullpen.
No, for sure. Hopefully, a month from now, we're not talking about these same three players, or whatever it may be. Hopefully, there's not a longer list that we end up having for the three down in the end of May. But yeah, it is kind of strange. It's the one thing I think that is kind of defined Francona a little bit. He is more likely to go to these veterans. You mentioned Espinal earlier. Like, he likes Espinal, and he hasn't played lately, but like there was a stretch where he was playing every day, and he's not necessarily an everyday guy from what we've talked about as well. You know what I mean? Like you talked about his 300 at bats. If he's under that, then we've got guys ahead of him that are getting more at bats and playing every day, right? So it's kind of a pull push. I don't know. A month from now, I guess I'll make my final decision about those three guys, because right now it's frustrating and don't necessarily want to, like, punish these guys for playing bad, but like that was the whole thing, is the accountability stuff. Like, you bringing in an experienced manager is gonna get the most out of his guys, because he's not going to allow them to just coast and not allow them to just be negatively affecting wins above replacement type players. Like, I don't know, just play the guys that got positive WAR. Then everyone will be happy, because then you can just point to that and be like, well, this guy's above replacement. Like, the other guys are below replacement. They're going to be waiting until, maybe someone gets hurt or someone, needs rest. That's about it. I don't know. Those are my thoughts on those three guys. I don't know anything else about them.
No, I guess we can move on to
our favorite.
The best segment is the.
That's why it's the end.
Our front office grade. Based on everything that's happened, I guess if you take away the Hayes signing, is it a success, or are you happy with it? Should we have done more? There wasn't a whole lot available, in my opinion, just based off of like our financial situations. Yeah, I think we could spend more than what we actually spend, but I would rather not spend the money and not get stuck in another Candelario contract or Moustakas contract or whatever. I'm looking at the free agents available for next year, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but I like what I'm seeing, and I think there's some players we could go after. But what are your thoughts? Well, I guess what would you grade the front office this offseason? I guess include the Hayes. We'll include Hayes.
Yeah, because I would say I had some notes on it. Like, obviously Hayes is 0.6 plus or positive 0.6 WAR. Anthony Santander with his 95 million is negative 0.3 WAR. Jackson Perfar was a guy that also was in talks of possibly being a free agent signing outfielder, and he got PED busted, so he's not even going to be able to play half the year. So, like, on the front of like the front office, that's a W for Meter and Krall and Castellini, because not only did they get the most productive guy of those three, but they got the cheapest one. Yeah. So like on that, that's
a Castellini dream right there.
Yeah, that's like, two strikes or two positive thumbs up for that. Aside from the fact that actually there could be some downside, because after this year he might be a $21 million player. So if you could have got him for maybe 3 years, $15 million, hey, now we're talking about Hunter Green type of cheap type production on, or great production on kind of a cheap contract. I don't know. It's a good question. There's some guys that are kind of questionable. The Taylor Rogers trade, he was a $12 million reliever that they traded with cash or for cash. So he's only on the books for the Reds for like $6 million. So he's still a high commanding relief pitcher, at least for Red standards. You know what I mean? They don't like paying their relievers high amounts. So I'm not sure exactly on the Taylor Rogers situation. He doesn't seem to be the lefty that is first coming out to get, you know what I mean? So I don't know. The other additions have been really great. Lux, Trevino. Wins, I think, was in the organization, so I don't know if he really qualifies as addition.
Yeah, but he was in the minors.
Yeah, so he I think Trevino is more the guy that I would say, like, that trade seems to be, paying dividends right away. And then I think the biggest one and the best one, and I'll ask you the best addition for me was Brady Singer.
Yeah,
I know Hayes has had a great week, but the stuff that Brady Singer is doing is what they desperately needed just last year in terms of just not having to go to openers, not having to have a guy that you have to bring up from the minors like Lyon Richardson just to fill in stuff. Like, he's going to eat innings, and they're going to be quality innings, and he's going to give them a chance to win. He's 4-0, and that's 1/3 of the Reds' wins. Like, just think about that. And also, he just seems like a guy that you give the ball to every 5 days, and you're not worried. You're not like, oh goodness, is he gonna, he's gonna hurt himself, or he's gonna, I don't know, any of those things that have happened in the past where you necessarily the back end of the rotation is not like the most reliable guys. He seems to be reliable and consistent, and just, he's also getting guys to strike out as well. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just a contact pitcher. He can actually blow it past guys if he needs to. So, like, to me, thank you, Jonathan India, but Brady Singer has been, I think, the best addition from this front office. And if I had to give them a grade, I'd give them a B, because I think they could have maybe done more, but the Castellinis aren't necessarily putting all their chips in for 2025 right now. We'll see. If they do something at the trade deadline, maybe we readjust our grades and whatnot. But right now, probably B for me. What are your thoughts on the front office?
Yeah, I agree. I'll give him a B. I'm looking at the 2025 free agent class for next season. And if we can find a way to get Candelario's contract off the books, oof, I think it's going to be tough. But there are some guys that, should we spend some money, I think, should we have a 2019 situation where we go and sign some decent contracts. Bo Bichette's going to be available. He's a guy you could probably move to third base if you had to.
Okay.
Let's see. Kyle Tucker. I doubt that's not going to happen. He's probably going to be the big fish out of all of them.
I think there've been lots of talks the Cubs are going to extend him.
Yeah, I've seen that too. They should. The way he's playing, he's been one of the best players in the game this year.
For sure.
Kyle Schwarber's available. Maybe you can get him to come home.
Middletown kid, yeah,
Middletown guy. Cody Bellinger has an opt-out with New York. Luis Robert has a club option for this year. Tyler O'Neill has an opt-out.
Robert's the one for me, in my opinion. I know he's not obviously playing in the best situation. He probably is not going to be playing, or he's going to have the numbers, but I think he's the one you go after out of those. The other ones, those guys are over 30-ish. I think Robert's still younger than 30.
Yeah, I think he's 28, I think. Close. He's in his mid-20s. And then as far as like first baseman that you can use as a first base DH guys, Pete Alonso has an opt-out. Reese Hopkins has a mutual option. Ty France, maybe you bring him back. He's a good friend, local 2024 trade guy from Seattle. He played pretty well. I liked he played a pretty solid first base. Yeah. And then the one that I really like the most is there's Kike Hernandez is available too. I would really like to see like Schwarber. Just fans are going to hate him because his batting average.
Yeah.
But he could give you 40, 45. He could make a legit run at the team record in home runs. He could. He's not, what's he, 32?
He's up there.
He's listed as an outfielder, but you could DH him. I think he could probably play first base too, right? He was originally a catcher with the Cubs, and then they moved him to left field. He tore his MCL, I believe. Yeah, and then like we wanted Tyler O'Neill. He hasn't been terrible for Baltimore, but I don't know. I think the free agent class next year is where we could probably actually spend some money compared to what we did this year. And, we have a mutual option with Austin Hayes. Depending on where that goes, Mike Yastrzemski's going to be available, depending on if San Francisco signs him, but he's also in his early 30s. It's hard because Dylan Carlson is going to be a free agent. Jason Hayward, Michael A. Taylor, Alex Verdugo. Like there's some guys that are going to be available. I would love Cody Bellinger. I was doing a deep dive on him for this year. I was really hoping that we were going to find a way to get him. It sucks that the Cubs were the ones trading him because they would never trade in division.
No.
His career batting average in Great American Ballpark is his third best batting average out of every stadium he's played in his career. His highest batting average is in Dodger Stadium.
Interesting.
And I believe his second highest batting average was in San Diego. And his third highest was in Great American. He hit, I think it's 329 in Great American with like 10 home runs.
Wow.
Obviously, that doesn't translate to 162 or in our case, 82 at home. But he's first baseman, DH, outfielder. We need all three. And good left-handed bat, power, decent average. If you could get him for $25 million a year, maybe get him on a 5-year deal, I'd take that in a heartbeat. Give him a Castellanos contract with a little bit more money. Like, what did he go for Philadelphia? It was like 5 years,
120 something.
Yeah, if you could get him for that, maybe 150. I mean,
spending Ellie's money already.
The sad part is I don't think Ellie's money's ever going to happen unless Ellie just doesn't become the player we think he's going to be. I think we have a better shot. And I really don't want to talk about this right now, but I think if I had a hot take, I think we would have a better shot at extending McLean and Marte together over Ellie by himself. And honestly, to a certain degree, I would almost like that, just because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. We saw how it was with the Votto contract. You know, we paid Votto, we paid Phillips, we paid Homer Bailey, but in my opinion, we paid the wrong pitcher. I think we should have paid Cueto and not Homer Bailey. I'm glad we played Phillips. Phillips was great, but it really handicapped us to a degree to where we couldn't go out and get Shin-Soo Choo for more than the 1 year we got in the trade. We couldn't extend him, and I don't want to be in that situation. But looking at 2026, if guys can develop this year, I still have faith in Nick Krall. I think he's one of the better half of the executives. I'll put him in top 15. Brad Meter, I don't know. He just doesn't talk. He doesn't talk enough.
Yeah, it's Nick's Krall's world, you know.
If it depends on the TV contract for next year. I know we're still up in the air for next year. Yeah, I would like. It'd be nice to see. I'm a big Cody Bellinger fan. If we could get him or Luis Robert, I think those two are like the two that I would target the most. And then a sneaky one, Lane Thomas. I think Lane Thomas would mash. He's going to be available too in free agency this year unless Washington extends him. And maybe on the cheaper side, you bring in Eugenio Suarez. He's going to be available. Who knows? Maybe he wants to come back and be a part of a 2026 World Series run for Cincinnati.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about Robert, since he's the youngest and probably the most raw out of all those guys you mentioned. He's probably going to get that Dodgers lineup or that Yankees offer probably. Anyway, Lane Thomas is a good one. I like that. He's underrated out of is he still in Washington? He usually kills the Reds when they come to town.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind that. I think the Reds might have to go down the pecking order in terms of the top free agents. Bellinger might be another guy that heck, he might go back to the Dodgers just because the Dodgers can afford it. But I don't know. There's good points. This front office has been good with the constraints of the small market, so you can't really get too mad at all the moves they do and don't make, because it's a Dodgers and Yankees world, and there's a lot of other teams that just, get whatever else is left, basically, more or less, because you just can't compete with their money, their contracts that they get out. So, but at least we didn't get Santander, and at least we didn't get Profar. I mean, that's
yes.
That's all
could you imagine if we would have signed Profar and he gets?
Yeah, Red's Facebook could be on fire.
We'd have comments of the year, not just comments of the week.
Yeah, they're like, yeah. But anyway, any other thoughts to close this out, Rick?
No, I just think we gotta bear down. We gotta roll with the punches here. We're not as bad as we look, and we're not as good as we could be. So I think if we can just stay afloat, go 500, if we can go even record April, even record May, if we can possibly get one game above 500 in May, sneak it out, I think June's going to be our month. July is going to be our month. Coast through August, get hot in September, and maybe make a run for at least second wild card spot.
All right, mark that take. We're gonna clip it and get all that out there. And if Ricky's right, we'll all see you back there. Hopefully, a month from now, we'll be all in better spirits, because they can't be as bad as May 2024. That's all I know.
Yeah. So,
all right, check out Ricky tomorrow on the pregame show for Chatterbox. They're gonna take on the Rockies. The Reds are gonna take on the Rockies. It's getting tired. 2 hours of podcasting. So check them out there. Hopefully, the Reds are gonna sweep and score 20 runs a game. So until then, go Reds.
Go Reds.
We're the Reds. Red hot. We're the Reds. Red hot. We're the Reds. Red hot. We're the Reds.